In the last video, I talked about how, as an INFJ, it is helpful to know how you work best and then to work with your personality, meaning that you're going to get more done if you work when you're energized and motivated and the idea is fresh in your mind. You ride the wave, as I spoke about in the INFJ Castle Storm. But a great question was asked in the comments by Reindeer911, which is a great name, by the way. And that subscriber asked, so what about when the opposite happens? Meaning when the INFJ gets burnout, bored, maybe not feeling well, or just can't get their heart into a project. And that is a phenomenal question because I bet you've experienced that on some level. I know that I have. I know that even as I make videos for this channel and for the podcast, that I don't always feel like doing it. In fact, sorry this video is a day late, but I was trying to apply something that I learned from a book, making sure that I'm disappointing the right people. Not that I want to disappoint you, but my wife's birthday is this weekend, and I just felt like we needed to spend some time together. She suggested it, and I said, well, I need to make the video. But I had to stop and think, you know what? Who am I prioritizing? And I think that's the most important relationship for me. I know that's the most important relationship for me, so I'm not regretting that. But all that to say that in the hustle and bustle of life, I don't always feel like making these videos, and it can be difficult to get motivated at times. Often I'm motivated, but let's just even think about some other areas of life. Maybe you have a job that you're not particularly interested in anymore, or maybe you had started a project like a YouTube channel or a blog or something, but then you petered out and lost interest. So how can you keep going? It is such a good question, and we'll dive into that in just a minute. But before we do, I wanted to, if you are watching this for the first time, offer you a book, my INFJ Personality Guide. If you'd like to learn more about your personality and understand the mindsets and motivations that cause you to do what you do, and hopefully come away with an understanding that you're not messed up or broken, then I'd love to give you a free copy of the book, and you can grab one by going to infjbook.com, and you can get a completely free personality guide there. So the first suggestion I have for a way to keep going when you don't feel like it is to know why. And I've mentioned this before, but you have to have a really big why. Michael Hyatt said, he's an INFJ, by the way, and if you haven't checked out his resources, he's more helping businesses right now, but he had some great mentoring materials in the past, and I think his podcast may still be up. But he has said, when you lose your why, you lose your way. So it's so important to know why you're doing what you're doing. If you have a big enough why, you're probably familiar with Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and a bunch of people have confirmed that why is such an important question. In fact, Bob Beal says it's the most important question of all. He's an executive mentor. You have to know why you're doing it. If you have a big enough why, when you don't feel like it, that will help to motivate you and keep you going. And related to that is a noble motivation. If you can tie, and again, that's your why. This I got from my mentor, Jay Weaver, so credit to him. If you can find a noble motivation to do what you're doing, it will keep you going even when you don't feel like it. You just have to tie it to something that is really important to you. Maybe it's not the project in particular, but maybe it's the people that you're serving or that you're helping, or maybe it's the cause or goal that you want to accomplish, or maybe you're just being a steward of the gifts that you feel that you've been given and you want to be faithful to use them. Needless to say, there are going to be days where you just don't feel like doing it. That's just part of being human, and I feel like it's particularly part of being an INFJ, but there's a lot to be said about showing up when you don't feel like it. I love what C.S. Lewis says. He says, and I don't know if it's Mere Christianity or one of the other books he's written, but he says that sometimes the emotions and feelings come first and then the action follows. But there are other times that we need to act first and the emotions and feelings follow our actions. And that's so helpful for me because sometimes I feel guilty, like I'm being inauthentic, or at least in the past I felt like I was being inauthentic if I was just doing it even when I didn't feel like doing it. But now I'm starting to see that in many ways it can be a sign of maturity to go and do something when you don't feel like doing it, and to get it done just because you've committed to getting it done, you know that it's important, and then often the feelings will follow, they'll come with you. So going back to the question a little bit, there's a really good point here about getting burnt out or maybe not feeling well. And that's such a critical part of the question that I wanted to address as well. You need to keep in mind that we are not just, and this is important for INFJs because our extrovert sensing, the last part of our personality, isn't really adept at connecting to the world around us. We need to keep in mind that we have to take care of our bodies too. So you may not feel like doing something, and that could be directly related to the fact that maybe you haven't gotten enough rest, or maybe you're feeling sick, or maybe something else is awry, like maybe there's another area of your life. We're spiritual, we're physical, we're social, we're emotional. It's all tied together, and we need to take care of each of these aspects in order to maintain health. Lately at work, I've been feeling discouraged, and I know that it's probably a result of the fact that we've been up a lot lately. We have young kids, and they've been sick, and we've been sick, and we're just trying to keep the boat afloat and keep going, and that's been part of the challenge. So I think what I need to do right now to keep feeling motivated and to keep at it is to do a better job of getting myself to bed on time. And I probably need some accountability with that. But just the discipline of getting enough rest is really important. And maybe it's exercise. For me, a really important thing is get on the bike and just ride for 30 minutes on a fairly regular basis to get some extra exercise. So that can be really important too. But you need to take care of your physical needs as well as other needs too. And often that comes down to sleep, diet, and exercise. Number 4, understand that you probably are always going to want to shift to something else. And that's okay. That's part of having a very creative mind and a very curious mind. Introverted intuition, that is the biggest part of you. That's one of the personality aspects. It's a cognitive function. A lot of people know about the preferences, the introversion, intuition, feeling, and judging that make up our personality, but we also have these underlying mindsets such as introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and extroverted sensing. And the introverted intuition is the biggest part of us. And this part of our personality loves to come up with new ideas. And it can connect the dots and find a great idea and get really excited about it. Not only that, it gets energized when it's solving a new problem. It's not as good at sticking with something for the long haul. So how do you manage that? A lot of INFJs are awesome in like the first year or two of getting things going, and I can attest to this, you peter out and don't want to keep rolling with what you're doing. And what I'd encourage you to do is keep experimenting and trying new things and also looking at things from different perspectives. For example, if you're watching the video, you probably noticed that in the last couple weeks, I've been trying different camera angles and setups just for fun to mix things up and to see how they do. I've also been toying with different topic ideas and pressing into things that I think might be interesting. Because on some level, you have to be interested in what you're doing. Certainly, you need to think about what's going to be beneficial to other people, at least if you're thinking about making videos and making podcasts. But when you're doing your work, think about new ways that you can do the same thing that you've been doing. At my work as a teacher, sometimes that just means rearranging my room to try a different setup. It often means coming up with a new, more efficient system to get the same things done in a better way. Better meaning I can get it done faster and make more time for the things that I enjoy and hopefully serve the people that I'm teaching even better as well. So what could you do differently? Could you integrate different habits and routines to do the same thing? Could you try to tweak or fine-tune or absolutely overhaul what you're doing? Put yourself out of your comfort zone and mix things up, and also try to lean into your strengths and gifts. And then the other thing is, if you're doing something that's fairly routine, trying to look at it from different perspectives can be helpful too. So again, maybe you come back to topics and ideas that you've explored before, but from a different angle. And that's something that you'll probably do really well when it comes to working in your introverted intuition. So again, with these shows that I'm making now, maybe we can go back and look at some different personalities. Some experimenting that I'd like to do, perhaps, is to look at other personality types and to explore them. And if that's something that you're interested in, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. But another thing that I'd like to do is maybe come back and revisit some of the ideas that we've done before, only from a different perspective or a different angle. because it seems that most people have interests in the same types of videos that we've talked about before and the same types of shows, and that's okay. Maybe we just need to dive in from a different angle, a different perspective, in a fresh, new way. So these are some of the ways that hopefully you can eliminate boredom. If I can get my pen to work here, you can eliminate boredom and you can get your heart into a project. Those are, again, like the why and the noble motivation. But ultimately, you need to take care of yourself. You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And you also need to continue to mix it up. And just know that you're not alone. It's okay to feel this way, and you're going to feel this way. So you can even plan, and maybe that means just taking a break for a little while if you can manage that. But it's also important to keep in mind that it's noble to stick with something for a while. I'll leave you with one final note. If you're really feeling discouraged, like for instance, maybe you're in a job that you don't feel uses your gifts to the best of your ability, it doesn't really call the best out of you and give you an opportunity to really use your gifts on a regular basis, and you're feeling stuck, Bob Beal has a great suggestion. He suggests that you just start taking small steps toward a new goal. So maybe that's starting to look for a different job that would fit your skills even better. And just working toward that is going to really encourage you. Or maybe you have a goal that you wanted to start a blog. You just have thought about it for a while and you've never done it. And just starting to think about what you need to do to get that set up could be a big help to you. So taking small steps can be a big encouragement when you're feeling discouraged or bored or dealing with maybe these big why questions. And speaking about the blog, if you've ever thought about writing as an INFJ and you're interested in that topic, then I'd love to know about that in the comments as well. Feel free to drop a comment down there because I'm thinking about in a future video talking about how to be an INFJ writer. And I know I've touched on that before, but I think it's worth revisiting and I'd like to do that with you. So thanks again for watching this. I hope this was helpful to you today. Thanks for listening if you're tuning into the podcast. It was a pleasure spending this time with you today. I really appreciate you listening and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next show.